I just want to remind you before it starts to always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan. And I'd like to remind you that nothing in this video, nothing you hear on the Juicebox podcast or read on ardensday.com constitutes medical advice of any kind. The supporting documents and social media for the podcasts, this video, and the blog are also not to be considered as advice. Please read this disclaimer before starting to view this episode.
We're filling up, huh? Guys, hear me okay?
Yep.
Cool.
Come here. Hey. Yeah. Quiet one. Yeah. Hi. Come on. What are you guys doing?
I think it's clear that I've muted Allison. She can hear me still, probably. But Alan, space shuttle?
Actually, it's the observation pod on the bus.
Has anybody had any really great advances with their blood sugar since week 1? Mike?
Yeah, so I've had some really great advances. I've listened to a lot of your podcasts. A lot of the stuff makes just eye-opening. I never heard the definition of insulin and carbs. That just like, oh. So I've been actually treating at 130. I've been treating, and I've been floating at like 102, 112 all day long. I've took my A1C average from around 7.2 to just this last week when I've really been bumping and nudging. The average says 6.1 now. So
congratulations.
Huge difference.
That's amazing. I thought I had this set up where everybody came in. I guess I didn't. So nobody's muted. Mute yourself if you're not talking, please. Mike, that's amazing. And it's just from not allowing a rise to ever happen. Is that the only real difference?
Yeah. So if I'm being sedentary, there's Night Scout. If I'm being sedentary, I'm, like I said, if I see 130, I'm treating. I'm on loop, so I'm using fake carbs.
Right.
Because I haven't figured out yet how to not let the basal stop because it thinks you're going to go low. So your words are getting out there. I know you're not medical advice. I know you're not a doctor play one on TV. However, it's listen to this stuff. It's making a lot of sense. So
I'm glad.
Thank you, Sensei.
No, please. It's my pleasure. Yeah, this is a good time to say that nothing that happens in this chat is medical advice, whether I say it or any of you say it. We're all just talking, blah, blah, blah. Anybody has a problem with that, they should probably leave. That is amazing. And by the way, I would say for anybody who is looping, that Pete's auto bolus branch works really well. And it is definitely worth looking into. So instead of the way their algorithm's set up is instead of it seeing your rise and trying to catch it with basal, it will bolus. And it works really amazingly well. It's worth looking into. The other thing is once you go to that branch, if you don't like it, it's a one button to turn it off. So you can shut it off and goes right back to the way the branch was prior, which is very nice. That's amazing, man. Congratulations. How long have you had diabetes? Do you mind telling anybody?
Yeah, no. So I've been type 1 over 45 for more years. I've been on an insulin pump since 91. So like I said, I'm doing loop right now. And being on a pump that long, I've had a lot of scar tissue, so I can't use my abdomen anymore for sights. So I've actually got my my Omnipod on my back. So I basically, if your spine is here, anywhere from that side, right or left, I go up and down my back, and I find that's a really good absorption spot.
Wow.
And it's really comfortable to sit in chairs too, because your back kind of curves in.
You should be able to hit like a mute all button and then unmute.
Just found that one. So that one's done. Now, I'm not any louder though, right? Emily, I sound okay now?
You're good.
Yeah, you're good
Just,
now.
it was just tough because everybody was open. Okay. Cool.
You sound pretty
Yes.
good now.
All right. Well, all right. So, Mike, first of all, really cool. How long did you listen to the show? Because you're talking like you just found it.
Mute.
I got you, Mike. I unmuted you. Go ahead.
Okay. So your first meetup, I was listening to a podcast that you were actually talking about the first meetup, and I was still out walking, so I was trying to get back. That's why I was late to that one.
Okay.
Prior to that, maybe a week prior to that, I've been listening to it.
Right.
I can read a book and not tell you anything about the book. I can listen to the book and tell you everything about it. So trying to find explanations for loop and some of these things, I got to listen to somebody talking about it. And
That's
just
cool.
it made so much sense. Same thing with the sandblasting analysis. It was just like,
Oh, I'm glad. I am very glad. I'm going to ask you about your sewing machine at some point, but not right now.
Okay.
I just bought one for Arden, and now I'm like, I wonder if I got her the right one. All right. I think that everybody who's been here before is probably dying to know how Gina's doing, so let's just force her to talk right away. How are we doing, Gina?
Okay. First of all, I want to say that I printed out some log sheets from Integrated Diabetes where Jenny works,
Okay.
and those are fantastic. I don't know if you can see kind of close, but it has a whole bunch of different things, that information that you're able to put in.
Okay.
And so I just printed these out and did all this yesterday, actually. So I haven't actually had time to sit down and pay attention to what I wrote. But anyway,
It was good to track things for you.
so I just did the graph 5 minutes ago. Tried to rush through that. Now, it doesn't look good, but
What do you mean?
there's some good stuff on it.
Don't worry about that. Oh, Gina, you get out. No, I'm just kidding. So, wait, but see, also, your very highs are so you're bouncing up and down.
Right.
Right.
Now, one thing I think I'm finding is my work schedule. When I'm working, this is when I'm having these numbers down here more so.
Okay. Right.
And when I'm not working is when I'm having more problems up here.
Gina, tell me from left to right, how much time is that?
It's the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, and the seventh.
Oh, these are days. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, those are days.
But
And there's
still-
only there's anywhere from, let's see, most of them have about four or five numbers per day.
Would you
and it's,
test at the
again-
same time every day?
No,
So what's causing you to test? Like, what do you?
I'm getting ready to eat. Generally, I'm getting ready to eat. That's what it
Okay.
is. Or I'm going to bed. I'm trying to do better with, just overall remembering that. Like when
Right.
I go to eat, because like I said before, I was not a tester. You were lucky if you got 5 tests out of me in a month.
Okay. I would think it would be interesting for everybody and you if you tested throughout a day a bunch of times.
Right.
Like I would love to see, like, before you eat, 45 minutes after you ate,
Yeah.
then 2 hours, then 3 hours. Like, I
Okay.
think I could make sense of that. But having said that, you are between 200 and a reasonable lower number, right?
Yeah, look-
70?
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's better than it was
Yeah.
when what I showed you last week. I have that here, which was it doesn't look as nice, but
No. But you were going to 300 more often and things
Right.
like that, right?
right. And I was hardly keeping it between 70 and 120. I had a few, but this time I had more.
Yeah.
I did have more
Your
lows
head's
though
going to
too.
explode when you get a glucose monitor.
Yes, I know it will.
Yeah. it
Now
really
here's
is.
the thing. I did take your advice and I
It
changed
wasn't
my
advice, Gina, but go ahead. Right.
I changed
Yeah.
sorry.
No.
Not your advice. I did not I took
Just
somebody's
said something
advice.
out
I
loud
didn't
and you heard it. That's fine. Go ahead.
And I changed my basal rate from, we talked about it being 0.925, and you said about, you thought it should be like 1.5. Well, I
Right.
jumped it up to 1,
Okay.
and I started having hypos. So
When?
I backed it back to 0.950, and that's when I was a little bit not so bad.
So until we know what you are before you eat, what you have happened to you, after the meal, and where you end up when the insulin's over, I think the next step is to understand that so you can see if your carb ratio is wildly off for your food.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I also adjusted that. Now I probably did too many things at one time. If you were an endo, you probably would strangle me, but you
I
know
don't
how
know. If you
they
saw
strangle
me,
anybody.
If you saw me adjust stuff, you wouldn't say that. But I'm like, I wonder what this
But
does, and then this and this.
I changed my insulin
right.
to carb ratio from 1 to 10 to 1 to 15. And then I changed my sensitivity from 42 to 50. So I think I did too many changes.
So you took insulin away at mealtime?
Yeah, because I was having those the hypos,
yeah.
Because of the hypos.
How long after meals were the hypos happening?
Let me see.
We're all waiting with bated breath.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's like
No, it's great.
Take your time.
Yeah. Everyone's like, this is amazing.
Okay, I
Everyone's
actually
test
did
dummy, Gina. Just
the
keep going.
change.
You're
I
doing
didn't
fine.
do. I didn't do the change until Sunday. So we were on here Thursday. I left everything Friday and Saturday. I had some problems, so Sunday I changed it.
Okay.
Let's see. Well, I don't. Yeah, probably about 2-3 hours after I ate.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, it doesn't seem crazy to take some away, but at the same time, I'm not seeing the whole picture, but I think you're doing a good job hammering your way through it. Are you listening to the episodes that talk about this stuff?
I've just been trying to keep up. I haven't listened to the ones like Kenny did about the fox and the
Yeah, but you're not on loop. Don't worry about
No,
that.
so
have
I'm
you
not. I
listened
haven't
to the pro
listened to that.
tips?
I have listened to them, yeah, but I
Okay.
probably have forgotten them. So I
would
should go back over
do
them.
that again. Like I seriously, because I feel like you're close. You've got
Okay.
a lot more data now, and you're differently focused than even like 3 weeks ago. So
Yeah.
I think that maybe you'd hear something, and maybe it would start rattling a couple of drums for you. You know what I mean?
Okay,
Hey,
I do want
Gina.
to say. I'm sorry. I just want to finish by saying one more thing. And then I don't know who was talking, but anyway, I wanted to say that on 2 nights after work, I came home, and at anywhere from 1 to 4 in the morning, I wanted some cereal. So I had some cereal,
Okay.
and the cereal was extra so healthy. It was Captain Crunch. Anyway, and actually at both of those, before I ate, my blood sugar was 61, and the next night my blood sugar was 99, and I bolused for both of them. And the next morning, after the 61, I ate the cereal. I took my insulin for that, and the next morning when I woke up, it was 81. And then that night I had it again, and the next morning when I got up, it was 87. So cereal is not my enemy.
I would love to see what happened overnight. That
would not be.
I want to know.
That would be the whole picture.
Yeah, I really want to know. Also, did Ricky just jump in?
No, that was me, I think. I was going to ask what kind of phone she...
You can go next. I just want to tell Ricky, every time I see his name, I think of a NASCAR driver. Okay, go ahead, Jamie. I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask what kind of phone she's using. There's a app. I think it was when we had an Android, though. It's Diabetes M, and you can log all the stuff, and it makes a graph for you, just like a Dexcom, and then that way you have the times, and you can add notes about what you ate and all sorts of stuff. And I think you can even print it off, and you can do all sorts of stuff. It's a really good app. I don't know if it's on iPhone though, but I don't know what you're using. It was really helpful before we got a Dexcom because it makes the graphs and you can see it all.
Jamie, thank you. I also want to warn you, there's someone planning to kill you right behind you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. He's practicing Boy Scout stuff. It's okay.
Oh, I thought he was making a shiv. Okay, never
He's
mind.
not.
All right. There.
It's possible.
What's that app called again exactly?
It's Diabetes M.
But it was only
Like
for
mother.
Android?
They might have it for iPhone now. I don't know. But it was an Android. We tried. I downloaded my sugar. I tried every app out there, I'm pretty sure. And it was by far my favorite. I mean, everybody has, gluco and everybody has the ones they like. But for me, it was definitely the most helpful.
Cool. All right. Good luck, Gina.
So
We'll talk to you next time.
Is it just diabetes with the letter M?
Yes, I think it had diabetes :M, I think. I don't know.
Okay.
You'll find it. Just you should.
There's also Glucose Buddy. I use that in the beginning, and it's kind of the same thing for iPhone.
Glucose Buddy?
Yeah.
Okay, but that's for iPhone. You said I think she's saying she does have Android. So, okay,
Oh, I
Yeah.
have it. Okay.
seeing a couple new faces. Does anybody want to go?
Thanks, Scott.
You're welcome, Gina.
I'll go.
Go ahead, Brittany. What's up?
We made the changes that you were talking about with protein and high fats, and
Right.
it totally works.
Cool. See how Gina, see how Brittany said that we were talking about, not that was advice. That's key. Go ahead. But and so what happened? What did you what kind of food did it work on? I think Brittany is a really weird time. Okay, go ahead.
I think it was spaghetti.
Nice. Something
What?
you struggled with in the past?
I can't hear you. Yeah, and I think I did it for like 4 hours. I think I set it for 5. Temperatures will increase for 5 hours, and then thank you. I just turned it off when I saw it starting to fall too much, and it was perfect. It was about 3.5 hours.
I'm glad. Use that experience and apply it to everything. Just the idea of creating timelines where the insulin you need is available, and it applied to so much more when you really kind of step back and look at everything. I know it sounds so overly simple when I'm saying it on the podcast. It makes me crazy sometimes, but you really are just trying to line up the need of the insulin, how much you're feeding into it. So just meet the need. You should be okay. That's very cool. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yep. Is anyone else freaking out at all about the coronavirus? Having trouble? You starting to panic a little bit? Jamie looks like he might
No, I am freaking out about my dad, who is 83 and lives alone.
Yeah.
And he keeps wanting to go out. And he texted me yesterday and said, "Do you know where I can get a haircut?" No.
Yeah. My hair is being held down by a lot of product right now. So
let me tell you, I buzzed my husband's like a number 3. I just buzzed the whole thing because his hair's real thick, and he's like, "Oh, it's driving," because it gets real tight.
Yeah.
It's like, it's driving me crazy. I said, "Listen, I don't like doing hair. I'm no hairdresser, but I'll buzz it like all the same length if you want," and he's fine. But I told my dad, "Cut your hair yourself." He goes, "I can't see the back." Nobody cares what you look like. Do not go out trying to find someone cutting your hair,
It took me 3 weeks to talk my mother into not leaving the house, but I got to her very early. I had to have the same conversation with, she's 76. I had the same conversation with her over and over and over again. And then one day she parroted it back to me like it was her idea. And I was like, okay, good enough. I was like, I'm just going to let that be.
Crazy.
Sounds good. I know. Anyway, I think that, I think it's an interesting thing for me to be in the Northeast. And I see a couple people here that I know of, but then around the rest of the country where it feels like it's either coming at you or hopefully not coming at you, it must be strange because we're really like, this is a bad week around here. And I went to the grocery store a few days ago and they were running out of stuff that nobody wants. Just like, there were no kidney beans. How are there no kidney beans in cans? Like, I mean, I know people use them in cooking, but everybody.
I have kidney beans if you need them, Scott.
Yeah, well, leave them outside. Someone will take them. Because I mean, it wasn't just the toilet paper. And by the way, then we'll go to somebody else. Arden comes rolling out of the bathroom last night, and she goes, "Did Mom lose her job?" And I said, "Why?" And she goes, "We're using 1-ply toilet paper. I just thought things were bad." Then she complained about 1-ply toilet paper for like 4 solid minutes. She had a lot of constructive criticism about it, actually. Anyway, so we're down to the 1-ply. Anyway, Mike? I got you, Mike. Go ahead.
Okay, so we had the same problem with my mother-in-law. She's in Boston area, and she keeps wanting to go out, would go out. So we finally convinced her not to go out. By this analogy, everything has poo on it. If you touch it, it has poo on it. You have to wash. Whatever you pick up, assume it has poo on it. And finally,
that's
she got that analogy.
How old is she again?
She's mid-60s.
Yeah.
But she just stubborn as a rock. But she's, I can go out and get this. I can go out and get that. I can just go out. Okay, you can't. Everything's got poo on it. She finally is like, I'm afraid to go out. I get it.
We grilled some chicken legs tonight that I bought from a company I've never heard of before in my entire life. It might as well have said like Jim's chicken legs. We just killed them. It was just real. The grocery store was down to, this is it. Do you want it? And I was like, I guess so. But I rubbed enough dry rub on it. It felt reasonable when it was done. Anyway, I'm sorry. Jamie, did you want to say something, or were you just smiling along?
Me?
Hold on, this one. He won't unmute. How come I can't? Are you fighting with me, Jamie? What's up? We cannot hear you. Can anybody hear him?
No.
All right. You fix that. We'll come back to you.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please go.
So our daughter has only had it was diagnosed 2 months ago, so we're very new,
Mhm.
and we haven't had a normal sick day yet, and of course worries about corona and things like that. But then we have the allergy thing coming, and I did a post about it, but we're still on injections. We're not on a pod yet. Hopefully we're getting that soon, but we have a Dexcom. But it's been really interesting to see, like, we can throw insulin at her and it doesn't do anything, and then like 3 hours later it seems to all hit, and then she'll go super low. We raised her Traceba at night, but is that just very similar to a sick day? What a sick day will look like if that happens, or?
So you're saying this is happening around like allergy season stuff?
Yeah, like we have a coating of pollen right now everywhere, and she's never really even had allergies before, but
And
she
her
all of a
blood
sudden,
sugar went up.
Yep.
So I know you said you're looking for a pump, which is cool, I think, because it occurs to me that if you're bolusing and there's nothing there, then whatever's artificially kind of holding her blood sugar up, when it goes away and the insulin's still left over, she's getting low later. So
Oh.
if it was a pump, I'd be like, why don't you try turning her basal up a little bit while it's affecting her? But since you can't do that with the Traceba, let's talk about where she starts and where she goes to. Like, what do you mean high? By the way, everybody, whenever you're talking high, low, like put a number to it so we can roll along. So
high, like over 200, but we were keeping her around like 1.8, like, because we had a real tight in like 70 to 120.
Mhm.
And then so high, and then even if I threw insulin at her, it wouldn't go down. But like you're saying, that's interesting. If you bring her inside, that's when she would have her, like, you wouldn't know where the low came from, kind of.
Okay, so is that what's happening? Is that
That makes
she
sense.
starts going up outside, you hit her with it, then she comes in, the attack kind of stops, and then her blood sugar gets low after that?
But she's higher at night. She's higher overall, like even when she wakes up.
So how long has she had type 1 again?
2 months.
Is there any chance that there was some honeymooning going on and maybe she just needs more basal now than she did prior?
Definitely. She was in honeymoon.
Right.
And then came out of it, and I could tell she was coming out, but then it was like strangely different from before the honeymoon. Like,
Yeah.
or maybe that's how it is when you first get diagnosed. That's why I wasn't sure what it was.
Well, I mean, if she was honeymooning and she's coming out of it, that just happens, and,
Okay.
and her insulin needs are going to change. If when they change, it's basal first. Like for me, I'm sure there are people who disagree, but I'm always basal first. Like I think like make sure your basal's right, and then everything kind of plays off of that. But it's tough when you're injecting it, because then, how much more, right? How old is she? Like, how much are you even giving her now? Like, what does turning it up a little bit mean? And the fear of, if I inject it in and she doesn't need it, it's in there for a while, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I would say if you used to have her sitting at 70 to 120 and she's now sitting higher than that, I don't see why it would hurt to put in a little more basal. How much is she getting right now?
So we upped her. She was on 12, and then during honeymoon we took her down to 11, and now like we just tried 13 last night for the first time, and we were even thinking maybe 14.
I think you're onto something. That's
Okay.
that's the path I would walk down on this to try
Okay.
to try to figure it out, because it sounds like, because you're injecting insulin too. So when you're
Yeah.
trying to bump, you're probably, do you have to give at least a unit? Is it
We
a
have
pen?
we have a half unit pen, so we
You
can do
have
a
to
half.
pen. Okay.
Yeah.
But even the half units are bringing her way down?
No, it'll more be like it won't touch her. So then we'll cover for a meal at like 4 units or 5 units, and it won't touch her for a few hours, and then it'll hit.
Where does that meal start
If,
at?
you know.
At what number are you starting at? Like, are you at 70 and then she shoots up and then all of a sudden she crashes down, or are you higher and then you're going into a meal at a higher number?
Like a breakfast would be higher because she's been higher at night. So say she's at like 150 when she wakes up.
Yeah.
And then you won't even, like, we'll do a 30-minute pre-bolus. If the pre-bolus has had to be longer, But then you'll barely see a even drop, and then she'll stay, and then sometimes like lunch, then you'll see.
Then it catches up. So all that insulin you're putting in the morning. So, all right, for everybody who listens a lot, I'm sorry. So if overnight she doesn't have enough basal, then you've got a deficit every hour overnight. And I don't know how much that is, right? But say she's a quarter or a half a unit lower than she needs to be every hour. By the time she wakes up in the morning, she's behind a number of units. So even when you're pre-bolusing, you're just really pre-bolusing the meal. You're not addressing everything that didn't happen overnight. And it sounds like at some point you get enough insulin in there that it overwhelms the situation and brings her down. But if her basal was more accurately in, then she'd wake up not only lower, but not as resistant. And by the way, by resistant, I mean, in a deficit. And then everything would probably go differently in the morning for you.
That makes so much sense. Cool. Yeah, because the other meals have been different. Thank you. That really helps.
Keep chasing the basal. You'll be okay.
Cool.
Good job. Lachlan, are you the guy who's going to be on the show eventually? You can just nod if it's you. Yes? Okay, cool. Andrew, go ahead.
I was just going to say, for our daughter, she was 7 at the time. It took a year for her honeymoon. So just for a newbie that's out there, right, the honeymoon can change drastically. She was in the summer, and we really took a year for her to come out of her honeymoon.
Yeah.
So hang in there, and a lot of things are just out of your control too.
Right. And just that's why I talk about like rolling with it too, because if you try to make this thing static, especially after you've been diagnosed, it's kind of a silly, it's a fool's errand to chase that off. And I was just telling somebody last night, somebody messaged me last night, and I guess their kid just suddenly got sick or something and didn't really need any insulin at all. And it made me think back to Arden had been diagnosed for like a year. And then one day she just didn't need insulin anymore. And it lasted for 2 days. It lasted long enough that I called my friend, who by now you guys have heard on the show, Adam, the doctor who talked about coronavirus, if you heard that one. And I was like, yo, man, great news. Everybody was wrong. Arden doesn't have diabetes. Like, it must be something else, And then he's like, that's not what's going on, man. And he was like, just wait a day. And, like a day later, she needed all of her insulin again. And that was it. But she was cured for like 48 hours. It was kind of nice. But yeah, it happens to everybody, Emily, at some point. I mean, there are some people who start out and their pancreas is just not doing anything. It's kind of better. I get a lot of messages from people that just say, I wish her pancreas or his pancreas would just stop working, so at least this would be consistent. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that's on.
I was grateful for the sleepful nights during honeymoon.
Yeah, sure. Take it.
Yeah.
Because you won't remember them in a year. No, you will. It'll be okay.
Is my microphone working now?
Yes.
Yes.
It is.
Jamie, you did it.
I did it.
Are you in IT, or how did you figure it out?
There's a settings button. Figured that.
So
how do people do this? Do they just like give their story or
whatever
what?
you want to? If you think there's any rules, you don't know me. So we could just do whatever you want.
I'm 24. I got diagnosed 2 years ago. I think I'm still honeymooning. I take like super small amounts of insulin. I'm on a pump, 670G. My basal rate is like 0.3 per hour.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much been that way since I've been diagnosed. But yeah,
For 2
I don't know.
years? Wait, 2
Like
years?
the podcast. Huh?
Did you say you've had it for 2 years?
Yeah.
Wow. Your basal is that's amazing. You are probably honeymooning. So are you enjoying this time? Do you ever get low, really?
Not a ton, but what I have been experimenting with is like temporary basal rates. I noticed that like cutting my basal by, 25% or something like that doesn't affect me too much because I'm really not taking that much. So if I want to see like my sugar move at all, because I'm also on a CGM,
right?
If I want to see it move, I have to like totally cut it, for at least like 30 minutes to see any sort of increase at all. But before I started listening to the podcast, I just thought it was like normal for everyone's sugar to go up to like 180, 200 after a meal.
Right.
Wasn't pre-bolusing, wasn't, doing any temp basals, anything like that. It was just like, bolus and eat. And afterwards, like I'm finding my sugars are like rising a lot more gently, coming down a lot more gently. So
Cool. Good for
I
you.
still have issues with oatmeal for breakfast, but
That's a hard one. When you can do oatmeal, you'll know what you're doing. I should
I hope
bolus for a
so.
bowl of cereal right now in front of you and flip you all out. But everybody, hey, anybody's basal like over 5? I'm trying to I want to spook Jamie. Anybody get like a real high basal rate or anything like that? No, you guys are doing all right.
Only during sick time.
Really? Can it go that high?
I actually have a sick profile I just tripled all my numbers.
No kidding.
Yeah, like when I'm sick, like it's all like I say that in the group sometimes, like, ooh, we're getting sick and we're seeing high, and I'm like, I triple mine. Don't be afraid to throw insulin at it.
Yeah, Justin brings up an interesting thing. The limits we put on ourselves around numbers. Like doubled sounds like so much that you just think, well, I've doubled it. If that didn't fix it, that couldn't be it. It must be, the diabetes fairy must be getting me now. But it could be tripled. It could be anything. I'm sure the women will tell you that, during parts of their cycle, they probably use significantly more insulin than they do at other times. I know Ardens can go like crazy, and not month to month. It doesn't always happen the same way. But it's good for you, Jamie. I'm glad you found the show, and I think if you keep listening, you'll knock those rises down even a little more as you're going. It's very doable.
Yeah, when I got sick, my basal had to go up to like 1 unit per hour. I told my wife, "This is it. Like honeymoon's over. Like we're done." Apparently. So, but no, it came back down.
Honeymoon not quite over. Well, I'm glad you're here, man. Congratulations. Thank you, Andrew. What are you cooking?
I'm cooking some hamburger.
Oh, nice. I know you've been at it for a while. I just thought you were like
putting
something major together over there.
No, nothing crazy.
Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to pick on you. If you don't want to talk, you don't have
to. No problem.
I just want to know.
Yeah, I've just been listening for a couple months. So still learning.
Cool. Is it for you or for a child?
For me.
Yeah.
I've been diabetic since 1989. So
it's the year I graduated from high school, Andrew.
I was in elementary school.
Were you really?
Yeah.
Are things changing for you as you're listening, or is stuff starting to make sense? What were you shooting for when you showed up?
Basically, over the years, I have gone like in and out of like paying attention to my diabetes.
Right.
So like whenever I pay attention, I pre-bolus and watch the numbers on my CGM. At least these last few years that I've had one. So my A1C right now is doing really well. It's better than it's ever been in 30 years.
Oh, that's cool.
So I'm pretty happy listening. And
hey, I'm happy you're happy. I have one last question. Are you 9 feet tall, or are we just at a weird angle? What's going on?
It's a weird angle.
Okay.
It's a weird angle.
That's all. I wish I was taller. So, oh yeah, you're just a regular person. I see. Okay. Excellent. Well, I'm glad you found the show, and I'm glad it's helping, and I'm sure things will keep coming together for you. So congratulations. I think pre-bolusing is the thing that is most difficult to talk people into. And I used to believe it was because nobody told them to do it. And I think that that's part of it. I also think it's because it's a pain in the ass. And then first.
Yeah, it is. And back in like 1990, when I was taking the cloudy and the clear stuff, like you had to. And when I got on the pump, I was like, oh man, I don't have to do that anymore. But yeah,
not
you
quite
do.
the case. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for you.
So
seriously, man, congratulations. That's excellent. Enjoy your hamburger.
Yeah, thanks.
Yep. Andrew, are you single?
No, actually my wife is also type 1.
Oh, I was just saying because that looks like a wok, and I didn't think you were supposed to use it. I just figured you had like one pan, and you were just like, but it's not, right? So your wife, wait, tell me more. Now I'm interested. Hold on. Your wife has type 1 too?
Yeah. She got it while she was pregnant, and it just never went away.
Yeah.
So I'm on Omnipod, right. And she's on the T Slim Control IQ.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've been trying to get her to listen to this, but she hasn't gotten around to it yet.
No,
But,
Jenny and I are gonna record a 670G episode tomorrow, and then we're gonna do a Control IQ episode, which it's
that'd be
obviously
good.
it's gonna be a lot of Jenny talking because I don't have a ton of specific information for it.
Finally, a
Hopefully, yeah.
670G episode.
Well, there's bitching. The podcast is free. Just calm down.
At some point in the future, she'll probably listen to it.
Yeah, you can hold her down and make her, but I think that's not okay anymore. So even joking around, yeah. So yeah, cool. I hope she finds it. Does she listen? Can she can't hear us, right? Does she need it?
No. Yeah.
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 Are you is she starting to get mad at you, like because you're doing better? Yeah. I get scared to lose weight because I think my wife's gonna kill me in my sleep sometimes.
So like my last A1C back in November was like 8.8.
Yeah.
And I knew it was bad. Like that's pretty bad for me, but usually it's in the 7s.
Right.
And like when it's good, it's like 6.8. And like for now, like Sugarmate right now says like the last 2 months is like 5.3.
No, it's cool. Good for you.
So,
it really is just small stuff.
Like it's all this small stuff. Like I just when it starts going over 120, I just take more insulin.
Yeah.
And it works. So
it's crazy. Insulin's the key.
Yeah.
All right, man. Cool. I'm sorry. Thanks very much. Enjoy your meal.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks.
Can I ask a couple loop questions?
Yeah, sure. Let's see what I know.
Is that okay?
Yeah, let's try it. Does anybody care about loop?
I do.
Cool.
Yes,
It's all
please,
the same-
please.
it's all the same.
Yes.
Okay, so the IC ratio, I'm in touch with Kenny, and he's been helping me with my daughter's settings.
Right.
And so my question is why, like when you're on a pump, your insulin to carb ratio would be a lot like at a safe value, right? So if it's my daughter's, I think is 3 point something during the day, and at night it's 7. But if there's food still processing in her body, why wouldn't I have it at her normal ratio? And she's more resistant, I feel like, as the day goes on.
Okay. So I'm going to have to pick through this because I don't 100% understand your question. Plus, I feel a little bit of pressure to not screw this up. So so we're talking about insulin to carb ratio, the amount, how many carbs are covered by 1 unit of insulin.
Right.
Okay. And during sometimes it's 1 to 7, and sometimes it's 1 to what? I'm sorry.
Well, okay. So at all throughout the day, I have her at 3.5, 3 to 5.
Okay. So that's what I don't understand. 3 to 5.
3.5, sorry, 3.5.
So 1 unit covers 3.5 carbs?
Yes, she's undiluted.
Ah, see?
Yeah,
Now, that makes more
U25.
sense.
She's little.
Okay.
She's a 2-year-old. So,
That's cool.
yeah.
I just that something wasn't lining up because I was like, is she like a linebacker? Like I couldn't figure out what was going on. I was like, wow, does she just eat crimpets? I didn't know what was happening. But okay, crimpets. How great were crimpets out of the freezer? It's another thing. We'll go back. Okay, so she's 1 to 3.5. Is crimpets just like a Philly thing? Because I saw Blue
I've
nod,
never
and everybody
heard-
else was like,
Is that
"What are you
the
talking about?"
I have some in my fridge.
All right, okay. So, so Hillary, so 1 to 3.5 during the day,
Yeah.
and at night,
And then
1.
7.
But she's not eating overnight usually, right?
She's not, but goes to
Rose
sleep
Hillary.
with the food. There's still like protein and, things still processing after.
But
And
if
so
you're
once-
not
Are you
bolusing,
bolusing?
if you're not bolusing, then that number shouldn't come into play at all. That shouldn't change how the loop is thinking about insulin. Is her
It doesn't
insulin
consider
sensitivity?
it doesn't consider the insulin to carb ratio when
Not
it's
unless
giving
there's
her in.
not unless there's carbs.
I think that's
but I do put
mainly
in
a
carbs.
bolus thing.
I put in an extent, like I put in, maybe 7 hours. If she has a steak or something for dinner,
Right.
I would put it in over, part of it maybe over 4 hours, part of it over 7 hours, just to try to cover it through that
So
time.
she's still rising up, you're saying.
Yeah. And sometimes it's growth hormone, sometimes it's sickness, sometimes it's this or that.
Right.
But my question is, wouldn't Loop think, well, her carb ratio is double, like less than double of what it usually is? Doesn't it consider that?
I don't think so.
Really? Okay.
So
Because Kenny told me I don't need to change it, but I was like, it doesn't make sense. I thought it would consider that if it sees carbs on board, that I'm putting for the protein and fat. No.
No, I think your insulin to carb ratio, just like Justin was saying, is just about the calculation that's made when you say, I'm eating 20 carbs, how much insulin do you want me to have? That's the only time that's going to come into play.
But if it's still playing out because it's 6 hours later.
But that bolus is now for a correction. It's not thinking about the carbs anymore.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Okay. So you're barking up the wrong tree. So what you need to do is
sensitivity issue.
It's either the sensitivity. I mean, does she go along great for a while and then jump out of nowhere?
Yeah. I mean, that's what's happened. She usually doesn't do that. I usually can handle that at night when those do happen. But lately it's like the past 3 nights, it's like a sickness or growth hormone something is strong, like something is happening. And so I tried. Kenny's like, you got to hit it early. You say the same thing. So I gave her like 3 units early on, and it still was like, I ended up with like 7 units. I'm just like, I know we just talked about it's a numbers thing and you can't get past the number, but then it did have that fall later on. So I'm just like,
eventually that insulin brought her too hard down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
so
I mean,
that's why you got to correct it up front more. When you got to stop it before it happens, mostly.
And I think that's what it was.
So you can open the loop and hit it hard, and then close the loop back up after a little bit when you see the initial rise. So instead of letting it get from like 130 to 200, when you see it at 130, if you don't know what to do, I mean, you could fake carb like Mike was talking about.
It doesn't work though.
But if that doesn't work, then I'd open the loop and hit her with some insulin, and then learn how to close the loop again without her being low. So,
yeah, that's what I need to do.
Yeah, because I did that with Arden this afternoon. Like Arden's 130 right now, but this afternoon Arden slept really. It's starting to embarrass me about she's on spring break on top of from home. So last night she goes to bed and she says, "Make sure I'm up by 10." I was like, "All right." So at 10, I'm like, "Get up," and she's like, "A little longer." Then at 11 and 12, and at 1:30, I was like, "What was the point of this?" I was like, "I've just been walking in here telling you to wake up." So she's up, and then she comes downstairs. And now I've had the power of her insulin down by like 50% since like 6 in the morning. So I hit her with a ton of insulin trying to make up for it. And it's still like 90 minutes after she ate something, it had fat in it, and her blood sugar rose up. And I didn't as soon as I saw it, I just opened the loop, I bolused, and I crushed it. And as it was coming back down, we closed the loop back up again, and then went right into another meal. And she's 130, 129 now. So she's doing okay.
See, I think that was my issue because I gave the 2 units and I was like, oh, I know the number. I know this is going to bring her down, but it just didn't. Right. And then it went back up and it was like creeping up. And then it got to like 140 and then I bolused and then it just kept her steady instead of bringing her down. And then it was like 160 and I was like, no. And then it was just like,
I hope everybody noticed that the advice for her is, and by the way, it wasn't really advice. It was more like just me talking about stuff. But what I was telling her, the only difference is that she had to open up the loop to make it happen. Otherwise, that's the same thing I would have said to any of you on another pump. You have to get the insulin where it needs to be, really. B, how are you? I want to say hi to B. I'm sorry, Hillary. Thank you very much. Good luck. Yep. You okay?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good. I shook your whole life up this week. Are you doing better now?
Yeah, I don't hate you anymore.
Well, your husband's nodding his head no behind your back, just so you know. And he's the only one getting a lap dance during this, by the way, which is making me feel weird. But no, seriously, you're doing okay?
Yeah, we're doing good.
The new you're using you let the auto bolus work?
It's a beautiful thing.
You do like it? It's getting there?
We're like the second day in, so it's still a little new.
I thought her last 12 hours looked good the last time I looked.
Yeah, but not like the last 2 hours. She was like, all of a sudden, she just spiked out of nowhere.
Gotcha. So did you just do what I just said to Hillary?
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you while you were talking. Even though you're getting, she got, probably 10 little micro boluses.
Right.
You'll still open it and give what you normally think? Or do you tone it down?
No, I usually give it. I usually like to do multiples of the basal rate. So I figure if Arden's basals, I forget what it is right now, but 2.2. So I figure 2 units is safe because even if she starts to crash down, it can just take the basal away, and it will. So I'm usually still pretty aggressive afterwards. But different insulin, different kids, stuff like that. But I would still be reasonably aggressive because it's 190, and that graph's looking like she's going to sit at 190 forever. Does that not look like that to you?
Yeah, I just hit her before. Well, not physically hit her.
I understand, right? Yeah. Okay. I'm not following any of your other kids, just so you know. But
Yeah, I just hit her like with insulin at like 7:15.
okay.
So it should usually it usually starts to work.
Yeah. I'd wait and see if it starts looking like it's creeping down. You're probably okay.
And then I just hear you chirping in my ear. Do it now.
I did text her a lot of like inflammatory text over the last week. She's like, but it says at one point she was like 0.4, and I was like, we are not killing anybody with 0.4 units of insulin. Just please do it. And so I'm glad. So you getting more comfortable?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
All right. Well, you keep cursing at me so that you can keep your husband and you married. All right. Just be mad at me. It's fine.
Thank you, Scott.
All right, see you guys. Okay. How we doing, everybody?
Hey, can I give you the couple week update?
Yes. Chris, what's up?
So we got, so it's been a couple weeks since we started this, and I think, was that the same week that I think we did the podcast, maybe?
I think so.
But we got Cameron's average right now is 106. His standard deviation is right around 15.
Wow.
And I mean, we're getting a little bit of help from somewhere, but since, I mean, we're tweaking basal adjustments every day, but the spaghetti, I mean, almost anything he's eating, he hasn't been over 153 in 10 days.
Oh, that's cool. Good for you. That's amazing, actually.
Nice.
I am not nearly that good at this. Just so you know.
Jesus.
Yeah.
He's getting some help somewhere, though,
Made
too.
Justin jealous.
Yeah, he was hitting a bunch of lows too, and then Jenny had me just back his basal off a little bit, and we're still tweaking, but we usually like once a night though we still hit a low, so we're trying to get to where we can get that out. So hopefully tonight we'll get some success on that.
Yeah, Arden's been using what are those things called? It's a frozen ice cream cone you buy at the grocery store. It has like nuts on top. Why can't I think of what it's called?
Drumstick.
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 A drumstick.
It was a
Yeah.
drumstick. She's been eating those recently, and I don't have to bolus for them. No matter when she eats them, they don't need insulin. And she doesn't have that with anything else. Anytime I bolus for the drumstick, she gets low afterwards. I just feel like there's probably no real food in it. I don't
Even
know
the
another way.
even the cone. The
Not
cone
she
is
eats
usually
the whole damn thing, and it's chocolate covered and has nuts on it. She does not
Right.
need insulin for it. But it's not like during a day where she hasn't needed insulin for anything. It's just been that stupid drumstick. It took me 2 drumsticks to say, just don't take any insulin, just eat it.
I'm going to buy drumsticks tonight.
Everybody's like, there's no natural ingredients in them. So.
Yeah, right. It's probably just styrofoam.
Are they the little drumsticks?
No,
There's
it's the
little
big-
drumsticks.
It's the full size one.
Weird.
I don't know. I really don't.
I
Like,
wish.
it's freaking me. And it'll stop happening at some point. Like at some point, I'll be like, why are you 300? And she'll be like, I had a drumstick. You said it didn't need insulin. But, for whatever's happening right now, it's just the craziest thing. So anyway, Chris, that's amazing, man. I'm what are your high and low limits set at that your that SugarMate's giving you, or whatever you're using is giving you those numbers back from for the deviation?
I think we're 70 to 150 right now.
Wow, good for you. That's really cool. I don't let myself feel good about standard deviation. I keep Arden's high alarmed, her high number down so low in the reports. It always makes me just low key feel like I'm doing a terrible job. It's what keeps me focused.
I'm just not ready to get those alarms at night. So,
yeah, no, I hear you, man. I really do. Cool. All right. Anybody else? What are we doing?
Hey, Scott, it's Melinda.
Hi. I can't find you. There you are. I found you.
So you mentioned earlier about worries from the coronavirus. I want to share a little story about what happened to me, and I'm sure anybody that's been around the block with this whole, refills on prescriptions probably isn't going to be surprised by any of this. But my insurance company's mail order pharmacy, my Dexcom transmitter was about to expire, and I had about a month to go. Knew I had time. Called them, verified 3 times that they were sending the transmitter and not the sensors.
Right.
Well, 3 weeks later, guess what showed up on my doorstep? And it was 10 days before the transmitter was going to die for good.
Okay.
And so major panic. So I called them up, and of course they said that they were going to overnight it. Well, where we're at right now is in the middle of the country. I live in Nebraska. There's cornfields everywhere. It was shipped out of San Diego and didn't arrive until it went to DC first, like right over the state of Nebraska.
Right.
Didn't arrive on my doorstep until 3 days after the transmitter died.
Okay.
And I've been doing this for 5 years. I never realized how panic-stricken I would be about not having the technology I've been using. So
But did it
the
really?
first thing that occurred to me was that poking your fingers really freaking hurts. I haven't done it in so long that going 3 days and having to do finger sticks is not a pleasant thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anybody that's looking to refill prescriptions, again, insurance company, mail order pharmacies, you can't trust them anyway. They're always going to mess something up. But do it sooner rather than later. Just mail seems a lot slower right now than it was before.
Right.
Well,
you also live on the moon, but I mean, yeah. Yeah, right. I hear what you're saying.
Cornfields as far as the eye can see.
Did anybody else do like renew their scripts when this was all being talked about in the beginning? Jessica, I did. I was like vigilant about it. I ordered so much. Like 2 of you could come over right now and use insulin. I don't think I would notice. But I took whatever her script was gonna give us. I was like, I'll take that and that. I bought stuff we didn't need. But you know, it's already March, so our copays had already been covered. Like, you know, all my out of pocket was gone already. I had to buy pumps in the new part of the year, which was terrible because all the money went to, like, I had to pay cash for them basically. But
well, at least now I know I can survive without it, but it wasn't a test I was prepared for, and I had to go out and buy strips too. That was the thing, that I just had a few in the bottom of my purse and you know, in a little vial, and I was not prepared to go 3 days with poking my finger every 2 to 3 hours. And
well, let me ask you a question if I can before we move on from you, and that's definitely a good note for everybody. I want to know about how those 3 days went. By the way, there's 56 people in here, so I'm sorry if I'm not like going to. I know I'm not good at switching screens, mainly because I don't know how to do it. But thanks for showing up tonight. How were the 3 days? Like,
I would say my blood sugars
all
were
that time with the Dexcom help you?
It did help me. I found that I could survive because I was worried I wasn't going to feel my lows. And I had a really bad low at one point that I felt well in advance that my sugar was dropping.
Mm-hmm.
I recognized what that feeling was. And I've been a diabetic for 33 years, so it's not like this is new to me. But going 5 years without having to worry about feeling, you know, the feelings that come along with the drop, because my phone is going to alert me.
Right.
I was worried that I wouldn't recognize it, and I did, and so that was a good thing.
Can you visualize
also, my
the
husband,
blood sugar? Were you able to visualize it?
yes.
Yeah. Am I crazy that I can do that, or can everybody do that after using the CGM for a while? Can you like when, you know, when people talk about the 2-hour change, like it's mind numbing. I'm like, why? Like, I know what's going to happen. It's the same damn thing. It always happens. Like, you know what I mean? But I think you have to be through enough experiences where the experience you're in that moment is something you can kind of like reach back for. Did that happen for you?
It did happen for me, but also kind of a unique experience where my husband's a truck driver, and so he's gone during the week, and this happened during the week, and so overnights were really scary for me, and so I let my sugar be a little bit higher, and by a little bit higher, I'm talking 150s. We're not going crazy here, but just because I didn't want to get to a point where I wasn't going to wake up, and I do hear the alarms at night. I was, well, my kids were here, but I don't want the kids to find me this way, so yeah, I let myself be a little bit higher. What's that?
There was a kid behind you just when you said that. It was weird.
Yeah, he's always here. I'm working from home now too. They won't leave me alone. I can't get away. But yeah, it was a good test. Not one that I would want to do, but I feel like those 2 days, I don't know if anybody else is like this, but it's hard not to get bogged down with look at the number, look at the number, look at the number. I'm finding myself looking at my phone a lot when I had the transmitter, and even now, just to verify and check and double check before I get in the car, look at the number. Before I do this, look at the number. Those 3 days were a little bit freeing too, just because it was like I couldn't see the arrows, so it was just pause. It was just a matter of poke my finger, and you have to trust that my body is going to tell me what's going on.
Yeah, good for you. That's excellent. I totally thought that was a tornado warning when that noise came up, just so you know. I have no context for your life. How is Nebraska? Can I move there? What's it like in the summer?
Where I'm at, it's not too bad. I'm in Omaha. Oh, as far as COVID or just in general?
Oh, no. Hell, I don't care about that. I mean the weather. What's the weather like? I'm looking for a place to hide.
Let me just tell you that they're predicting snow on Sunday, and yesterday
never mind.
it was
That's
85
enough.
degrees.
Thank you. Okay, that's good. No, Nebraska's off the list. Jesus, are you serious? Get out of there. They sent your mail to Washington, and it's going to snow in April. You got to leave.
And again, 89
It
degrees
snowed today
yesterday.
in
Snow
Minnesota.
on Sunday.
Wow, Minnesota. It's going to snow in July in Minnesota. That's not impressive at all. Okay. All right. So, like I said, I cannot see the other screen. So, whoever wants to be next, just speak up, and here we go. Allison, is that you?
It is.
I saw you reaching for the thing. Good. What's up?
Okay, so I've got two questions. You talk about switching to open loop, closed loop. So right now I'm still in open loop. So what does that do?
Okay. Basically, what it does is it puts your basal back to where it's set at. So think of it this way. You've told the loop you're going to have 50 carbs, and it believes you in your settings, right? So if you put your insulin in, and it starts doing this dance behind the scenes where it's like, well, we're going to take the basal away now because the bolus is going to do everything we need it to do. Except that doesn't happen for some reason. You start going up. You know, mostly it's not going to happen because your settings are wrong, but it also could not happen for any number of other reasons. So you start going up, and as your blood sugar is going up, the loop does not put your basal back on because it believes in itself. So once you realize the loop isn't doing what you think, that's when it's time to shut the loop off or open the loop and then go back to the world you're comfortable with, which is going to be your basal running, and then you probably having to correct without it shutting the basal off again.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yes.
Okay, good.
So then the next question, and this has happened a couple times, and I did it we did loop back in the beginning of the month. I kind of started, we were on for a couple weeks, and then I ran into a transmitter issue. They said they didn't have it. It was going to be 4 weeks and whatever. So now we're back on it it's been about a week. I decided to put it back on. So the other, I guess yesterday, she did pretty good through the night for the most part. And then we woke up, she was like 78.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's allowed to have Pop-Tarts. They're awful, but so she gets them once a month. And so she chose to have it that
I think
day.
prisoners get them more frequently than once a month. But go ahead. I hear what you're saying. Right, yeah.
Well, I just hate those things. There's, 67 carbs for one package of
Yes,
them.
I know. No one should eat them. But yeah.
Okay, so that's what
so
she
good.
had. But it didn't suggest any insulin. So she was like 78. There, as far as I can remember, there wasn't like a huge deficit in the insulin. Like, I didn't wake up in a big negative on the insulin or basal or whatever. So why does that happen? And that's happened 3 times now.
Yeah. So the why is I'm not gonna know, but what I would have done, I can tell you, I would have just bolused.
Oh yeah, I did. I mean,
Yeah,
I was like, okay, this is usually what I give her, and I just did it anyway.
I would do that. This is usually what I give her. I'd put the carbs in, and then I'd head back after the prediction line stops predicting a low. I'd go back and see if it's suggesting more insulin. If it did, I'd put it in.
Okay.
That's all I would have done.
And that's pretty much what I did.
Yes.
Yeah. And so.
All right, cool.
Okay.
John doesn't want you to give your kid Pop-Tarts, just so you know. He's not saying anything. He's being cool about it, but he doesn't want that.
Yeah, she gets a box a month, like one of those big boxes.
Listen,
so.
yeah, it seems reasonable to me. My kid has eaten Pop-Tarts. We usually use them around lows. She's like, yo, I'm low. What am I going to have? Then she looks in that drawer like it's magic. And I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, so cool. Good for you. I think you did the right thing.
Okay.
As to why it happens, I don't know. You got to go ask those loopy geeks. I'm not 100% sure. I know how to manipulate their thing. I don't know how to build it, so I'm not.
I don't know. You taught me this. 78's really not low.
Good for you. Yeah, 78. I was like, you were like, she woke up at 78. I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah, I know. That was me. I was like, yes.
Yeah, good for you. That's so cool. Arden's 110 right now, and she's falling, like just diagonal down, and I'm like, this is great.
Yeah.
Her actually, it looks like the auto bolus when she was at 129. It looks like it bumped her a little bit. It's got her to 110 now, but right now she's out of the loop. She hasn't had the loop for a half an hour. So
when you have a low at the end of your bowl, like today has gone a lot. We've been struggling, and I think I had everything set way too high, and it was just way bonkers. And I sat up late last night, read, changed a bunch of things, and it was a lot better today. But one thing I noticed was, having that low at the end of the insulin, at the end of the carbs?
Mm-hmm.
Is that too much insulin up front? Is that
Say it again. Give it to me one more time.
okay? So just like, and she did pretty well. Like, so we ate lunch.
Yep.
We did pretty good. A little bit of a rise. Then she came back down, kind of hung for a while. And then at the end of everything, at the end of the insulin on board, at the end of carbs, active carbs, then she starts dropping.
Did she get low or did she just drop?
Well, I gave her a tablet before she could hit the low. So, she bounced to like into 60 and then came back up.
Yeah. I mean, that's tight tolerances, right? It sounds like you were almost there. So,
yeah.
As we talk about variables all the time, maybe the same bolus that wouldn't have done that the next day or the day before did it to you that day. I mean, that to me seems like a little bit of what diabetes is. You know what I mean? Like it's not always going to work out. And if it keeps happening, then okay. But if it happens once, I wouldn't pay attention to it.
Or if it happens again, what would you direct it to? Would that be a basal?
I would probably take away some of the insulin and probably lengthen the pre-bolus a little bit. So take away some, but make it sooner.
So pre-bolusing with the loop. So how do you do that technically, if I'm doing it right? I mean, I just hit it. I just do like I would do the pot. I put it in there and then
that's what I do.
So you don't change the time of when she's going to eat or anything else?
Not really. I mean, unless it's like some crazy food, then I do.
No. Yeah.
If it's like pizza or pasta or something like that, or tonight, like tonight we opened the loop, hit it, brought her down, closed it before a meal, and then I told her, hey, put the carbs in, but it's not going to give you insulin, and that's okay. And then she did that. So sometimes I play with the time a little bit, but I haven't in a long time, to be honest with you. I used to do it more on the other branch, but now with the auto bolus, I don't seem to care as much. So that's it. Good luck.
Thank you.
Of course.
Hey, I was just going to say something about I think Emily was talking about it earlier regarding allergies and whatnot.
Yeah.
Allergy season being a big one. I think everybody's hitting that now. One thing I've noticed with certain allergy medications is just, that can have an effect on, what you're running usually on the high side or whatnot. Claritin, Allegra, and then also Flonase. Flonase is being a, topical steroid basically. And I have noticed particularly in some, younger folks, and or folks that aren't, larger, like, have lower body weight. Sometimes those Flonase doses that you get just from one spray, depending on your body weight, can sometimes have a significant effect of raising your blood sugar for a prolonged period of time because it is a steroid. And then that can, of course, cause a cortisol response and then start bringing up your kind of resting or rather base blood sugar values.
Do you use a temp basal during that, John, when you use that stuff?
I do MDI, and so I'll usually go up by half a unit or something like that. But usually I only use it for a couple weeks. But a friend of mine, his daughter is only 9, and again, you can't meter those sprays more than like 1 or 2 sprays. So for her, if she does 1 spray of Flonase, sometimes she'll be riding anywhere from 40 to 60 points higher throughout the day, just for weeks, unless they adjust their basal.
That's cool. Thank you. I appreciate you bringing that up. I'm going to find out why Melissa's in a construction zone. What happened, Melissa? Did you have to send all the guys home when the corona came? Or are you in a garage?
No, I'm in my unfinished basement. It's the perks of having a carpenter for a husband.
Oh, you mean he starts things and doesn't finish them?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He does it for work, and he just doesn't do anything for work, or doesn't do it at home. So
it was the metal studs that made me think like you were literally in your living room and like just hadn't. No, but you're downstairs. Okay.
No, it's our basement.
Well, his plans look lovely. I hope they work out.
Yeah, in 6 years.
Wait, it's been like that for 6 years?
Yeah, in 5 years.
He's not going to finish it, just so you know.
No, probably not.
Okay, all right.
Well, we can be hopeful.
Is it because he's busy at work? It's not because he's upstairs drunk or something, right? Like what's going on?
No, he's watching TV upstairs right now.
All right, I see. Well, there's a way to get him to do it, but it's a family chat. So, yeah, I'm just saying. You could get the basement finished if you wanted it.
Right.
Obviously, you don't care that much.
The wife is the neck in the relationship.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. Do you have any questions, or was that too much?
Me?
Yeah, you're good. You're just listening.
I'm just listening.
That's fine. All right. Well, good luck.
I'm new to looping, so I guess
Yeah.
just anything, any input you can get.
Did you listen to those loop episodes?
I have, yeah.
Were they at all helpful?
Yes, I'm too afraid to do like the developer options.
Yeah, I don't do that either. I'm just using like Pete's auto bolus branch. So it's the dev branch with the auto bolus feature that you can turn on or turn off.
Okay, I just need to research on how to switch to that.
Yeah, you're gonna have to download the new code and redo everything you did.
Okay.
Which the second time is easier. You just check off a couple of those boxes and let it run and put it on the phone. It really doesn't take very long at all. But yeah,
Okay.
I think it's worth doing. I really do.
Hey, Scott, just for Melissa real quick. Kenny, he has a group on Facebook, SoCal Loopers.
Oh, okay.
And he has a really good couple of videos he put up. And one will show you how to download the Auto Bolus branch if you want to
Can
try.
you put that in the chat? Because I am so like behind the times, and I'm gonna
Get to
go
work. Do that.
and I'll go look it up.
All right. Cool. I hope that helps. I have to be careful. Like I can't get like too inside baseball when I'm talking about looping, just because I'll lose a lot of people who don't understand it. What my goal with it in the podcast, honestly, is to bring people along to the idea of algorithms as they're becoming more mainstream. I want people to believe in them and try them if they want to. So we jumped on Loop just so we could have these conversations ahead of time, so that when Horizon and all these happen at once in the next year, that I'm not suddenly talking about something different. I'm trying to move people into it kind of gracefully. So good luck. I like it a lot. So I hope it works for you.
Well, I'm excited. I was only diagnosed 2 years ago. I was initially diagnosed as a type 2 diabetic. So.
Oh, so 3 years into your remodel?
Exactly. Yeah.
If I was you, that's how I would measure it, just so you know.
Exactly, right?
Math, Scott.
What's that?
Good math.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yes, the 5 minus 2 thing. All right. I'm going to get mocked now. All right. Bye, Melissa. Thanks. Good luck.
Thanks.
Hey, Scott, just to be clear, when everybody's talking about the looping, are we still talking Riley Link, Medtronic, looping, or I apologize. I haven't heard the most recent Juicebox episodes.
Yeah, don't apologize. And I mean, apologize for not listening to the podcast, but not for that. Yeah, you're either talking about that with Omnipod or Medtronic pumps. I think those are the two that work right now with it. And with the Riley Link, yeah.
Okay, you're the inside guy, so I wasn't sure if you had like some special Dexcom something that I just wasn't aware of.
I definitely don't. I don't. My relationship with the companies who buy ads on the show, some of them are really good relationships, but I still talk to people who don't know anything more than I know. Like, like Omnipod's like, time for when Horizon's coming out, for example, the person I have contact with knows exactly what we all know. She's not involved to that level. And I don't know that anybody except, all the way up at any of these companies really knows what's happening. So, but I still expect, I think Horizon got pushed because of Corona, and I still expect to see it in the first quarter of 2021 now. And if that happens, we're going to try it 100%. So I like Loop a lot, but there's no reason not to try something different. And when you can switch back and forth so easily. So I'm going to give it a shot. But yeah, good. That's what we're talking about. All right, cool. Keep going. I'm good.
Hey, Scott, this is Gina again.
Hi.
I just had a quick question about, my husband was wondering that question actually, which is a good question, I guess. When it comes to basal, does basal, I don't know how to word it. Is basal supposed to keep you like this?
Gina,
or is
Basil's
basal
job
supposed
is
to
keep
go
you stable.
up? I mean,
No.
down.
Basil's job is to keep you stable. It is not to bring your blood sugar down at all. So if you did a basal testing and your blood sugar sat stable constantly at 180, your basal's
Right.
working,
Right,
but
but
it's
not-
holding you at 180. So more
Right.
basal insulin would hold you lower.
Okay.
So the idea of it is to get enough in there that it holds you lower where you want to be without making you low. Once you have the basal set that way, then you can start worrying about your insulin to carb ratio for food and your amount of pre-bolus time, that sort of thing.
Okay, so when you have your basal, for example, and it's steady, let's say it's steady at 100, okay? And I guess the best way to figure that out would be to fast a whole day, which of course would be not easy to figure out.
The best way to do it is to get a CGM like you're going to do.
Oh,
because
okay.
then you can kind of, then you can do it. But you're right. Aside of that, that's exactly what basal testing is. It's not eating and seeing where your blood sugar sits. Now, I think that basal testing overnight is reasonable. Like if you could limit yourself to not eating after like 6 p.m. and start tracking it, you could get a good feeling overnight, right? Am I sitting at 190 all night long? Because if I am, my basal's nowhere near right. If it's more like 110, maybe I'm okay with that. Maybe these lows I'm seeing are because my boluses for my meals are out of balance, out of time. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah,
if I had to bet about you, like I know I've barely seen anything, but if I had to bet about you, I think you're rising and crashing at your meals, but you're not crashing all the way. So if we could see a Dexcom line, we would probably see you eat, your blood sugar go like this, come in around 200, maybe stay there for a little bit, then drop down, and then it's leveling off again around 70. That's probably what's happening at your meals. I don't know for sure. If I knew for sure, what I would tell you is pre-bolus a little sooner, you won't go up as high, and maybe you'll use up the insulin earlier on in the meal and it won't bring you down and get low, and then you start making adjustments off that idea. But you know what I mean? That would be tough just to blindly say.
Okay. And then, so I guess for my circumstances, when it, if it's staying stable all day and then I go to work and then my activity level, is higher, which would, I guess, make it drop, then that would be when I would probably have to do like a temp basal.
Yeah. Right. Well, no, you could also set up, you wouldn't have to do that necessarily. You could, if it only happened once in a while, but if you had a set schedule, you could give yourself less basal insulin during working hours while you're active, if that's what you needed.
Right.
So you could have
that's what I meant. But,
yeah. So you could have a program that ran overnight, then started up at 7 a.m. and ran until 2, and you can change it. I don't love having too many basal rates, but if you're wicked active, it sounds like during your work day. So that might end up being a real thing for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except it's at night, but yeah.
But you know what I mean? Yeah, during work time.
I'm a stripper.
That's what we were all thinking. Just so
no,
you know.
I'm a floor stripper. That's what I do.
Only Kate was thinking that because she's laughing really hard. Kate, are you a stripper? What's going on? She's like, oh, there's more of us here. I didn't realize. Okay, cool.
Sounds like you got your next After Dark episode.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I just just completed one with a man. He talked about this. He was so nice. It wasn't as much fun as I was hoping it was going to be. Anyway,
where do they hide the pump?
What's that?
Where do they hide the pump?
There's a whole thing. I thought the girl who did it a couple of weeks ago was really thoughtful about it. Actually, I enjoyed doing that with her a lot. It made me feel creepy for a while, but then I got over it when I realized she was a bit of a player and she was just being nice. I think she felt weird as well as I did. Anyway, we have more time if anybody wants to go. Otherwise, we're going to have to find out why that wolf is eating Caitlin.
Hey, Scott.
Hi, Ange. What's up?
Greetings from North Dakota again.
Hi.
Haven't hit our peak here yet, so we're holding on. But all the kiddos here are upset because they just canceled, and I'm sure it's an ADA thing, but all the camps are canceled.
Okay.
No kids are going to diabetes camp this summer, which is really
yeah, I just heard of that.
Yeah, but so we've been looping for 2 weeks, have gotten to know Kenny.
Right.
So that's been awesome. But what I've been trying to do is I think over Christmas or sometime when the Dexcom server went down and everybody was freaking out.
Yeah.
It made me very grateful that we had to wait 3 months for a CGM and 6 months for pump, and you just can go old school.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that I don't ever have to go back to syringes and Novolog or something like that. But that looping has been amazing because I've been sleeping for 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
And it's really great. There's a lot of things to learn, and I've timestamp videos I've been watching and rereading everything, but I want to stay ahead of the curve and try to be as educated as I can. But how do you see the Omnipod Horizon thing all laying out? So is it just a different algorithm? I really haven't.
So what Omnipod says they're going to do is they're developing an algorithm in-house, and they're also going to make it so it'll work with Tide Pool's algorithm. So what you need to do is you need to hope Tide Pool gets theirs through the FDA, so you'll have another option. I'm assuming at first it'll be Omnipod first. There's something weird Omnipod's doing where it's not going to be available for iPhone at first. And that I can't seem to figure out. I feel like their iPhone offering is going to be through Tide Pool. And this is me like sniffing through things because I don't know. But yeah, they said, no, we're going to start with Android. And I thought, well, everyone else says it's easier to program for iPhone than Android. Like, why are they going? So there must be a reason, but I don't know what it is. So it's going to be a little weird when it first launches. I don't know why. I guess if you have Android, you won't think it's weird at all. It'll just be fine. But I wonder if you're not going to be able to run it off of a PDM too. So maybe you'll have two devices with you if you have it, or I don't know. It's all going to shake out at some point. Now, how their algorithm's going to work, it's not going to be as customizable as the Loop is ever going to be, because you could decide to make the Loop's target 70 if you wanted to. It's completely up to you. They're going to have some sort of a low number. But what I'm understanding from Control IQ people, there are ways to lie about the settings that'll get you the outcomes that you want. And I don't know if that'll go that way or not. It's going to be a lot. We're going to learn, all of us are going to learn a lot over the next year about this stuff.
And what's the advantage to that? Because, I mean, we're going to be forced, because I even wonder how long we can keep getting the Eros pods.
Here's the thing. There's 50 people in here, and you guys are like right on the cutting edge of this. There are 1.8 million other people with diabetes who don't know shit about any of this. And they're just going to get their pumps in the mail. It's going to keep. Has that boy never heard that word before? He looks like he's 15. What's going on there? And so, you're lucky he wasn't here week one. Anyway, so what I'm saying is that the Omnipod Horizon, as an example, because we're talking about it, is going to be a massive update for most people with type 1 diabetes. The only people who are like, what do you mean 110 is going to be the target? Are however many people are on Loop right now, which, by the way, aren't many at all. Like, online's got a way of like skewing your perception of things. But Alan, you might know, a few thousand people have downloaded the Loop's like algorithm, right? And that doesn't even mean they're all using it. It just means they're the ones that downloaded it. So there's 1.8 million people with diabetes and 3,000 people who have Loop on their phone. And so you're going to be servicing the mass of people with type 1 really well. Like, imagine if you had a 9 A1C and all of a sudden your blood sugar was at 110 all the time. It's massive. You know what I mean? Those people are never going to complain about that. They're never going to wonder about that. They are never going to find this podcast. Never. Like people with diabetes lives are going to get so much better in the next year and a half. It's not going to be funny. Now, the trick is to get them to actually do it, because most people with type 1 diabetes aren't on pumps. Like, the mass majority of them are not on pumps. And did anybody hear the guy with coronavirus the other night who was on? It was interesting, right? Because he was only on because he had corona. He didn't know the podcast. He didn't know me. He didn't know anything else. And when we tried to talk about management for a minute, he doesn't think about it the way all of you do. And I think most people consider it the way, yo, dude, man, finish the basement. What are you doing? It's a pretty girl. She'd like a nice basement. All right. You don't have to answer. I'm just saying. And so, I think that that's what we got to keep in mind, is that stuff's going to come out. It's going to look like automatic blood sugar to most people. And hopefully it'll get a lot of them. I bet you the world's A1C is going to go down exponentially in the next couple of years if you can get people to actually use these things. And so if they make them too user definable, the people will just mess them up. They'll get these systems, put them on, screw up the settings, go back to their doctor, be like, this thing doesn't work. And that's going to be the end of it. So
well, it's all about support and proprietary and all that other jazz.
And slowly getting people into it. I guarantee you a few years from now, and by guarantee, I'm saying this out of my own head, but I've never heard anybody say this, but you'll be able to go into those settings and say, no, I'd rather it be 90. But you have to remember that 2 years ago, the FDA wanted no part of you managing your blood sugar from your cell phone. They were an absolute no on it. And Omnipod's been working behind the scenes with them, getting them to, if you've ever heard Shacey, the CEO, come on the show the first time I asked her about it, she's like, yeah, that's our pie in the sky dream. And a year and a half later, she's like, it's going to happen. Like, those of you who haven't had diabetes for a long time or been around it for a while, stuff did not used to move this quickly. So I think things are going to grow exponentially. It's going to be a different thing. I know everybody's always like, everybody tells me 5 years. That's that lie about curing people. You know what I mean? Like, this is different. Like, this is happening. Those Dexcom sensors are getting better and better. That G7 is going to be tiny.
You don't need your
right?
phone.
And
You can go get a calculator.
It's just all going to take off.
Go grab your calculator.
The Juicebox podcast is available everywhere that podcasts are. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, anywhere you can think of. And if you don't have one of those free apps, check it out at juiceboxpodcast.com. It's even available on Google Play, Google Podcasts. It's there for everybody. It is 100% free. There are over 300 episodes. The podcast has 1.6 million downloads and counting, and has been here and available to you for over 5 years. I hope you enjoyed this and that you'll check out the show.